Good evening. A bit quiet, a lot of virtual spectators. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Bjoern. I'm the CEO of Blue Horizon Group. We are an impact investor of the next generation, targeting 3 times returns. And the topic for today is food tech. I think that's the whole section. I'm very happy to also be here with one of our portfolio companies who's presenting after us with Fermented. But who are we as a group, what Marco just announced? So we have been in this space as a pure play actor since more than 5 to 6 years, so way before Beyond Meat has IPO'd. We've raised by now close to $900 million US. We have put in quite significant amount of money from our own balance sheet, so 85 million, which is a strong alignment with everything we do. So there's a very strong entrepreneurial spirit in our activities. We're targeting 3 to 5x returns, and so far our track record is quite nice, I would say. Why is that? We've done over 60 deals, and by now it's 68 deals only in this industry. We knew from the very beginning what we don't want to do. So we don't do insect farms, we don't do anything related to fish farming. That's all sustainable and very nice, but ultimately we don't have time. So we are really focused on alternative proteins, looking at the full value chain from biological crop protection down to CPG burgers in a plant-based way. I'll come to that a bit later. And in this space, across all technologies, we've done over 60 deals. The team which has done this, and I'm just taking reference to what was discussed earlier today, I think I'm very proud of using actually the pandemic as an opportunity to recruit people in a very diverse team. So we were just awarded that 67% of our investment team is female. None of the members of the investment team, and we're roughly 30 people now, are born in the same country, which is quite unique. So it's a very truly diverse team, and they do a fantastic job in actually managing a pipeline, which is today, it's a little bit outdated, it's 1.52 billion this morning of deals which we see in our industry and increasingly growing. So clear message, it's just the beginning, and I always say we're just approaching the starting line. Now, why food? Because it's really climate critical, and it's a fantastic opportunity. And earlier also today, it was the electric vehicles won't solve the problem, but food will, potentially. And we look at COP26, red meat was served in a discussion around energy, partially, which is a real joke, because ultimately the food system today is the second biggest block in impact on greenhouse gas. And very few people really know that, and very few people potentially acknowledge that with an adoption curve, which we've seen in other industries, people eat 3 times a day, so actually they can really do a change, and that's what we're working on. So food is, after energy, the biggest driver, and it's really nicely measurable and allocatable to all of the SDGs. So impact for us is a value driver in everything we do. We are SDR9 compliant from a process of investing and have a very strong team focusing only on impact and making that measurable. The funny thing is that it's a totally underinvested space. So if we look into the capital which has flown into this industry over the last years, it's 84% less in food and ag tech together combined, and you've seen probably some data that that's increasing quite significantly if you compare that to energy. So that's a very, very, very big gap, and we've built ourselves a quantified market model and believe we know on a quantified basis where the profit pools, where is it all shifting in terms of bottlenecks to this industry. And if you look at this, it's driven by a lot of things which we know from the energy transformation or the energy transition. That's usually why in Germany I call it always the Proteinwende. So it's like the energy shift, the protein shift. And this goes to 3 basic technologies. The first one is like plant-based chicken. It's extrusion, it's plant-based, so literally it's a product made from plants. The second one today is used in like in beer fermentation, so it's about fermentation, but in our industry we do that in a very precise way. So we literally precision ferment and we tell the bug what to do after it's been fermented. And the third one, a lot of media attention has been drawn to, especially in valuations and big rounds, that's the cell-based meat. So literally what today works in a hospital, if you have a burned skin, you take a cell, you put it into the lab, you regrow it, and then actually you can implement it. So the same concept, but for mass market. And we're about impact, so it's really about mass market and getting this impact to everybody. So what do we see on this slide? It's the key essence of a study we conducted last year with the Boston Consulting Group. Literally, we say it's all driven by price parity, and consumption will follow. So assuming, and for me, by the way, like a Beyond Meat burger, for me as a consumer, it's still an iPhone 5. It's not an iPhone 13 today. They're working on it, so there's still a lot of innovation to come, but the prices have come down already. So today, for plant-based, we believe that on a pure production cost perspective, it's already at par with something, and I'll stick to my chicken example. Today, you can buy 1 kg of chicken breast from a real chicken. You can buy that in Thailand or probably in Brazil for $2.68 per kg. That's really, really low. But what we see in our industry, that already there we have a at par one-to-one comparison with that price point with a plant-based version, based on the ingredients. And what makes us very optimistic is that suddenly the biggest market in the world opens, which is food. It's like 5 times the size of software per year. That's food, by the way. And driven by the pure economics, the unit economics, we know that the reference point will stay because mass animal agriculture has reached a certain peak where efficiencies are only going to go up in price if realities of resources kick in. So ultimately, there will be space once we are below that barrier for having a brand. Today, there's no branded chicken globally. Suddenly, you have this whole market opens up for branded products. And you have more money for innovation. And by the way, also for retail, this is a big shift. So plant-based, we believe already today, as we speak, a clear opportunity to replace that like in a chicken nugget. On fermented fermentation, it will take another 3 to 5 years, but we believe there will be a huge change in the way we eat cheese, for instance. For me as a vegan, that's probably the toughest. That was the toughest part, not to eat cheese. But there's a lot of innovation coming, so that's great. And that mostly will be fermented and also cell-based. And cell-based, we believe there's still a lot of things to be tackled on the IP side, on the consumer side, that this will take probably another 8 years until this really kicks in. Of course, you could go to Israel and one of our portfolio companies, Supermeat, you can watch behind a window, you can see in the lab how it's growing, and then you can eat it like a cell-based chicken, but that's really not mass market, right? So what's the essence of this? If we take all of this together, it's a tremendously big growing market, and the categories which are there, it's not only chicken or meat, and everybody's thinking it's about burgers, but it's really about dairy, it's about seafood. I don't know if who of you have seen Seaspiracy, which is very good, thank you, Marco, which is actually one of our pitches for the next platform we're going to do. But it's a really big market, and it's going to go very strong. So today, we are only at 2% penetration of alternative proteins to the total protein consumption. Depending on the different scenarios which we've built, this will go up in the next 10 to 15 years by a factor at least of 10. And if policymakers, if consumers globally will follow us, we believe this is probably one of the most exciting investment opportunities, and we believe that we know where to invest. And with that, I would like to hand over to one of my favorite portfolio companies, which is Planted. Thank you very much.